Senator Warner, we called for the Army's Office of Inspector General to conduct a similar audit. The Army IG turned us down. So last week we submitted an amendment to the NDAA for fiscal year 2026 requiring the Department of Defense's Office of Inspector General to complete this audit. The NDAA comes to the floor this week. Lots of amendments. We'll be working hard on all this stuff. Finally, the FAA reauthorization included valuable modernization for the air traffic control system. Everything from runway maintenance to surface awareness initiatives. But we've all got to get it done. As we've known for a long, long time, FAA modernization has been something that has, I think, been around most of my adult life. There's a lot more to do and to make it happen. So we're really grateful that you're here and eager to learn from all of you. So.
Adam?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Warner and Congressman Beyer, for convening us, and also not just for your work today, but for long before January, being focused on flight traffic and safety, and also the work that your staffs have done on airport noise for the residents of this area. You know, safety is paramount, but that is notable that you have been calling for reforms and to flight congestion long before this tragedy occurred. This is largely a federally and the Airports Authority run facility, but I'm happy to be here to listen and see what we can do to assist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we start with, Matt, why don't you start to kind of give us a sense of your loss so that as we go around and talk about the technical and things we can improve, we remember that in many ways the tragedy that took place on January 29th is what forced this issue to the forefront, something that some of us have been talking about, concerned about for some time. But please, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Senator Warner, and thank you, Congressman Beyer, for having us here today, having me here today. My name is Matthew Collins. I lost my younger brother, Christopher, at the young age of 42 on January 29th. And what started for me as a, how can I honor my brother's memory has really turned into, I've met a number of other families from this flight, been working with a number of other members of the flight on trying to make improvements, and now it's more, how do we honor these 67 people? It's not all about my brother now. It's how do we honor these 67 people, and how do we prevent something like this from ever happening again? And I'm not going away. We're not going away. We want to see change, and you're going to keep seeing us until change starts happening. But thank you, Senator Warner, for convening this today and inviting me to be here.
Thank you. I would say this, so it's, and Don and I at the federal level and Adam at the state level, we're committed to having that honor. We had an amendment in the bill that I was not too happy about that came within one vote that would have, one, restored some of the candidly, I think, terribly ill-advised funding cuts to MWA that were slipped into a bill in terms of trying to, in a sense, double the rent that Airports Authority paid to the federal government, and would have restored that, and part of those dollars would have gone to a permanent memorial to the victims of Flight 5342. So why don't we start over here, and Carlos, we'll end up with you, Jack, because, or maybe, do you want, well, maybe we ought to start with you, because you set the stage overall.
Okay, so I'm Jack Potter, the CEO of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, so I have Reagan and Dulles airports under my jurisdiction. We're federally owned airports. Let me just start out by saying, I've expressed it to Matt, that I'm very, very sorry for your loss and, all the families who've lost and loved ones, families and friends. That's what this is all about. Our hearts reach out to you, and we were all there that night, and I tell you, it was a very, very tragic night, something we all have to work very hard to make sure is never repeated again, and I think we're all committed to that. I would say that we at the Airports Authority are part of the NTSB investigation, so I can't comment on anything specific to that. Prior to the Airports Authority, I was the Postmaster General for 10 years, and so I've been at the Airports Authority for about 15 years. The safety at the airports is paramount. It's our top priority. We work very hard to do our part at the airport, whether it's runway safety and movement of traffic on the ground at the airport. I will just say I want to thank both you, Congressman Bayer, Senator Warner, for all of your actions and the actions on the part of everyone on Capitol Hill that are trying to address this issue. I would comment that it was a real surprise to me that night, suddenly next to me was Secretary Duffy, who was on the spot, his second day on the job, had great conversation with him, and he has truly been a champion going forward, as well as you both have been, and you know, the delegates from this area, all of our representatives, to address the modernization of air traffic control. It's something, as you, Congressman Bayer, said, has been around for years, but I really feel that the momentum is there. Unfortunately, it was driven by this accident, but the momentum is there, and hats off to Secretary Duffy, because he truly is championing that, and it's something that's been long, long overdue. You know, I can't say enough about the need for that. It starts with that, and then, as you said, Senator Warner, you know, I look at what's happened here at Reagan National, a very, very congested airspace in general, just with commercial aviation, but on top of it, with all of the, you know, aircraft movement that are associated with the federal government. And it's just a microcosm of what's coming, because when you think about some of the new technologies, the drones, the eVTOLs, the ability to move aircraft, smaller aircraft in a congested airspace, it's critically important that we we modernize our air traffic control. Very, very complicated. Who owns what, you know, is going to be a problem. Local jurisdictions own airspace up to 400 feet, except around the airports, right? And so how we manage that airspace going forward, and what we do today to fix today's problems and modernize it, but also in the process of modernizing, think about what the future is going to be, and making sure that what's designed today works today and gets us up to where we need to be, but anticipates where we're going. So really appreciate you having this, you know, little conference here, but more importantly, it's what happens going forward throughout the whole industry to make sure that we're modernizing aircraft, we're modernizing, you know, the technology, communication technology between aircraft, and we're modernizing this airspace so we never have to sit here and talk about this again. So thank you for being here today.
And I would hope as people go around, and if you've, because I want to make sure that we've got enough time that we actually have the conversations, so that if you could, you know, if you say, you know, here are a couple things that we think specifically would move us forward, that would be great. Tom?
Okay, thank you. I'm also with the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. My name is Tom Beatty. I am Executive Vice President and Chief Operations Officer. And overall responsibility for Reagan National, Dulles International, our Office of Public Safety, which is police, fire, and our 911 system, our strategy and operation, and what I'll call other related functions. Proud to say that I've been with the Airport Authority for 28 years, and my experience has run the gamut from aviation safety from an operational standpoint, but also from a compliance standpoint, and that follows FAA Part 139. Typical type projects, anywhere from the planning to design construction, but just to name a few, I think maybe some of you are aware of the recent runway rehabilitation we just completed over here at National Airport over a year ago. But that also includes everything from geometric improvements to environmental concerns to lights, signs, markings, everything that we're talking about today, just the overall of the safety of the airport. The other aspect I like to also say is that, you know, that's the physical aspect of what we do, but there's also the other aspect also under FAA.
So again, thank you for everybody, and I appreciate everybody's time.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name's Tom Bo Jones. I'm the director of the FAA-designated UAS test site in Virginia, which Senator Warner helped stand up coming out of the 2012 FAA Reauthorization Act. I first want to say to Mr. Collins, thank you for being here, for representing the families. I'm sorry that a tragedy like this has to happen. You know, aviation, oftentimes rules and regulations sadly are written in blood. That's an unfortunate truth, but I'm hopeful that here today, for your brother's legacy, we can make some differences in aviation safety. I started my career as an Army Black Hawk pilot. Flew for the Army for 12 years, and then I flew for the Coast Guard for 13. And today I actually am in a flying club, flying general aviation aircraft. So while I'm here professionally as a drone pilot, aviation safety, you know, is certainly paramount in both of those fields for me. I think first I want to say, Senator Warner and Representative Beyer, thank you for putting this forward, this proposed legislation. I think the thing that really I want to focus on from a professional capacity as a test site director is your provision on closing some of the allowances that allow military aircraft not to broadcast ADS-B. And coincidentally, I think this aligns nicely with the new drone rulemaking, which some of you may or may not be aware of. There's a notice of proposed rulemaking that came out last month. It's called Part 108, and the provision in that rule that aligns nicely here is that all drone pilots have to give way per 91-113 to all other aircraft. And that's fine. Drone pilots are fine with being in that seat. In order to do that, drone pilots need to be able to detect other aircraft. There's a number of technologies that are in development to try to make that happen, but the best technology that already exists that we've tested that does really well is ADS-B, because it's network. We can see plenty of aircraft coming from plenty of distances. So in that new provision in Part 108, suggests that aircraft that are operating beneath 500 feet, not near airports, will have the right-of-way as long as they have ADS-B broadcasting. They will have the right-of-way over drones. And so it's a provision that's trying to encourage that we step into modern times, and all pilots, because it's not just military, there are some pilots that don't have ADS-B that are outside of certain areas that don't require it. All pilots will be able to have drones avoid them if they're broadcasting. So if that's in that proposed rule, I would encourage folks to pay attention to that. It closes on October the 6th, and it aligns really nicely with the provision here, which is to try to close some of those, I won't say loopholes, but some of the robustly used provisions that allow military aircraft not to broadcast ADS-B. So
It's
thank
a
you.
loophole. We all
Okay.
call it the ADS-B military DOD loophole. We got it.
Loophole. All right. Thank you, Senator Warner, and thank you for having me here.
Mr. Collins, thank you for being here. Senator Warner, Representative Beyer, thank you for the invite. Tim Johnson, assistant professor for aviation and air traffic control at Hampton University, and also the program director. Also retired Air Force as an air traffic controller. And then just last year, I was on the National Academy's staffing for air traffic control staffing. So we just finished that, which I'm sure you just recently got to see. Why am I at the table? So throughout my career, it's all about training. And being an air traffic CTI school with the FAA, we're partners with the FAA, we teach the curriculum that the FAA teaches. However, to be a part of FAA, to be a controller, you have to go to Oklahoma, you have to go to Academy, centralized location. To be a pilot, you can go many different locations. So that is one of the things that I want to discuss more about is for training and stuff like that, with, I guess, colleges becoming enhanced controllers where they don't have to go to Oklahoma to go out into the workforce. The burden is still on those universities instead of, finding funding and grants to get simulators become enhanced that they have at Oklahoma. So that's one of the things that, if we're going to get more people out into the workforce for that training to get all that, we need more people there. And right now, Oklahoma, it's just not enough. So for more colleges to become enhanced, let's get that funding that the same, pilot simulators and things of that can also have. Thank you.
Good morning. Kent Lewis. I'm the flight safety manager at Hampton University. And first, Mr. Collins, I'd like to thank you for being here and being the voice for the families and friends of the flight that evening. We've been in that situation before myself with some of my friends, and I know it's not a great space to be, but I know that what you're doing will lead to great things down the road, and I appreciate your effort and all that of all the other family and friends that are chipping in to push this forward for continuous improvement. Senator Warner and Representative Beyer, thank you for providing this venue for this discussion to open. This is an area I've been studying since the 1980s when I was a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, and they gave me my first safety position as the Technical Publications Officer for the squadron. So had positions of increasing responsibility through the Marine Corps with attending the Aviation Safety Officer course and being the Director of Safety for Marine Corps Station Yuma, Arizona, when I retired in 1999. I flew helicopters in the Marine Corps and also fixed wing, was a flight instructor, and then went to work for Delta Airlines. And in working with the Airline Pilots Association, which is the largest air safety organization, volunteer organization in the world, I'll steal some of your thunder, developed human factors and safety management system courses, worked with the FAA with Dr. Don Arndt, developing the first SMS programs for the airlines back in mid-2000s. So to see these programs become online is great, but we have a lot of work to do. We want to get to the highest level in these systems, which is level 4, which is a continuous improvement level where we have the culture where we can talk openly and we trust each other and we can start checking boxes off what the NTSB lists that they give us every few years and correct those things. So thank you for having this discussion today.
Hey everyone, good morning. Sean Maxwell with the Airline Pilots Association in the Government Affairs Department. Happy to be here, and thank you, Senator and Congressman, for convening us. And I'll echo other comments. Mr. Collins, thank you for what you are doing. The two pilots on PSA Flight 5342 were ALPA members, and we are absolutely committed at ALPA to do whatever we can in our power to make sure something like this never, ever happens again. Whether it's your presence at an event like this or in the halls of Congress, DOT, NTSB, it's critical to make sure that people don't forget, that we don't let this fall off the congressional agenda. And so thank you. Thank you for what you do. I just want to touch real briefly on 3 things. The first is the Cantwell legislation, Senator, that you helped bring forward. It is an excellent bill. ALPA has endorsed it, would close that loophole that you were mentioning. And I also just want to point out that it is more comprehensive than the cruise bill. The cruise bill has a lot of good things in it too, but the Cantwell bill has a more aggressive timeline for implementing ADSB in equipage. There's a strong retrofit requirement for commercial aircraft, which is absolutely critical. And the other thing is there's several good provisions in that legislation on staffing, right? And we can talk about technology and we can talk about infrastructure and ATC modernization, but without, we need more controllers, right? We need to make sure there are enough FAA technicians to maintain and upgrade this equipment. And the Cantwell bill looks at that as well. So thank you for your role in bringing that forward, and we hope that serves as the model going forward. The second piece, just real briefly on air traffic control modernization. Like others have said, it's unfortunate it takes a tragedy for government to get in gear, right? But it is, we have a critical moment here and an opportunity to do this, and it's complicated and it's complex and it's going to take many years, but it has to get done. The $12.5 billion that Congress has already provided is an excellent down payment, but we know we will need more funding. We also know that, frankly, FAA is going to need to execute better than they have in the past. I'll also give credit to Secretary Duffy. He has been extremely aggressive in pushing this. He's been open and accessible to us and our leadership, and I think for most folks around the table. But we're going to need a more detailed plan from DOT about how they plan to execute this. And we're going to need eventually more funding. Lastly, I just want to bring up aeromedical issues, especially surrounding mental health for pilots and controllers. It's something that there were some good steps taken in the recent FAA reauth bill, but for so long, if a pilot or a controller is suffering from a health issue, particularly in the mental health space, they have been disincentivized to speak up and do the right thing. And we need pilots to be able to, no one here is talking about, a severe illness or mental condition. I mean, obviously, if you are going to be entrusted to fly an aircraft or to control and separate airplanes, there are going to be disqualifying medical conditions, and that's appropriate. But we're talking about things like stress, anxiety, depression, maybe it's a marital issue or going through a loss of a family member. I mean, these are things that people go through, and pilots and controllers have been, for far too long, they have to jeopardize their career when they raise their hand and say, hey, I need help. So there is legislation. It's called the Mental Health in Aviation Act. It is bipartisan. It's actually already passed the House Transportation Committee. It would require FAA to implement a number of consensus recommendations from an expert panel that the FAA convened to look at this process to make sure that pilots and controllers, when they submit their medical documentation and they're cleared by their doctors, that it won't take 6 or 12 or 18 months for them to get cleared to go back to their careers. It's also authorizes some additional funding and staffing at FAA to make sure they have the medical expertise they need. So I believe Senator Duckworth and Senator Hoeven are planning to introduce companion legislation in the Senate. I just wanted to flag that as well. Thank you again for convening us, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Senator Warner, Congressman Beyer, for convening this roundtable. My name is Stephen Shems. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Association of Flight Attendants. We represent flight attendants at 20 airlines, 50,000 members nationwide. To Mr. Collins, we also represented the flight attendants on the PSA flight, so our futures are entwined forever, and we will work with you to make sure that we never forget the tragedies that occurred and that we make the fixes that are necessary. I do want to echo a lot of what's been said around the table, that this is about shared responsibility and shared agenda, and that we all need to make sure that we're working together. Flight attendants, pilots, air traffic controllers all need to be talking, looking out, and making sure that we are speaking up when we say something that is not right, and to feel that we have the right and the privilege to do so. I will say that on safety management systems, they're great and they work and they're well, but we need to make sure that any management system or aviation safety systems protocols are non-punitive. They used to be that you would just come out and report if you saw something wrong, and so that it could be corrected and fixed, but we are seeing now a move towards punitive actions taken against people who speak up and speak out. And so if we want to have a true safety culture, you have to be able to speak openly and honestly about the issues. Happy to be here and happy to participate in any discussions that come across the table. Thank you.
My name is Carlos Aguirre. I'm with the Professional Aviation Safety Specialist. I'm the Secretary Treasurer. I've worked at Miami Air Route Traffic Control Center as a system specialist and also at the FAA Command Center in Warrenton before assuming my position as Secretary Treasurer for PASS. First off, I just want to give my sincere condolences to Mr. Collins and all the families of the tragedy in January, and to make sure that everyone here is a member on this table, member of the aviation ecosystem, and it's our duty to make sure that we get to the bottom of what happened and make sure that it doesn't occur again. Do everything that we can to make sure the safety systems are in place, that a tragedy like this doesn't happen again. PASS represents 11,000 FAA workers. Among these are air transportation safety specialists and aviation safety inspectors. The air transportation system specialists within the technical operations unit ensure functionality of communications, computers, navigational aids, and power systems vital to safe air traffic and the mission of pilots and controllers. They touch nearly every piece of technology in the air traffic control system. We cannot turn on the lights without them. Over the last few years, PASS has been working with FAA and Congress to get the FAA technical workforce staffing numbers healthy again after years of decline. We are happy to see that the FAA is now taking action to hire technicians and surging the hiring of technicians, and that they have in place an aviation workforce plan that will soon be published. At least that's what we hear. The brand-new air traffic control system that's being proposed by the Secretary and the FAA Administrator is a bold and ambitious proposal to modernize the national airspace system. PASS has long stated that the obvious solution to concerns with reliability and operational continuity is expediting new systems in the NAS. We strongly believe that this workforce has the expertise and the capability to assist. We're committed to the mission excuse me, and able to accomplish the work if given the proper staffing and training. We're focusing, making sure that the FAA is focusing on a fully staffed and trained internal workforce. The FAA strengthens long-term resiliency of the NAS by doing so. And we welcome the introduction of the Senate Bill 1985. We support any proposal to add opportunities to improve and strengthen safety management systems. SMS is a core component of predictive and proactive modeling initiatives in aviation, and we're always in support of any bills that would enhance aviation safety. Thank you for having me here.
Well, thank you, everyone. I want to make sure we get really into the heart of this. First of all, just a couple quick comments, Sean. What you say about mental health resonates with me. One of the things that I recall as governor was our National Guard units who were constantly deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and there was a huge reluctance to acknowledge mental health issues. And I think in the military, some of that has been removed, but it resonates with me. I want to take a look at that legislation in terms of air traffic controllers, pilots, flight attendants, others, really makes some sense. I want to, one of the things that I know is already in the public domain, but it just, I'll do this. How many of you use DCA as your kind of home airport? Let's do this, okay. How many of you have had, and press people can answer this too on this. This is not a gotcha question. But one of the things that kind of struck me, this was a great stat out of the first preliminary report. Between October 21 and December of 24, there were 15,214 near midair incidents between planes and helicopters at DCA. Jack, had you heard that number? Is that?
Yes, but they were in close proximity.
Yeah, but again, how many of you have had a landing at DCA where you're not really aware you're a passenger, but you've had the plane's coming in for a landing, you divert and you have to come back around? Again, there are such unique components to this airport that we have to grapple with. And and I am not the expert that I used to be on Commerce Committee, and I remember in 2009 I got here and at the Senate, and they said, Senator, we're going to get airport modernization, air traffic control modernization done. We're going to move from the radar to GPS by 2015 or 2018. And I do want to get more on that, but this issue for the non-technical people, and I will try to do it in the simplest way. The ADS-B, Tom, that we were talking about, is to making sure that there is that signal that goes out from the plane that will let everybody else know. In the night of the tragedy, as you know, the military helicopter didn't have their ADS-B on, so they have had an exemption. So the legislation that and I think our bill is better than the cruise bill, but it's kind of all, there's three buckets. Shared airspace. How do we deal with this ADS-B in continued use? really focusing on busy airports, which clearly we fall into, independent review, risk assessments, so that's air traffic safety. The FAA staffing and air traffic controller pipeline. When I was first running for senator, the single best lobbying moment that ever took place was one of your former colleagues, Paul Rinaldi, who was head of the air traffic controller system, and he got me at some event, and I got 20 minutes with him, and he literally scared the hell out of me about if we don't put more people in the air traffic control system and how we were still building back, and literally the stress. And I've worked with air traffic controllers, have huge respect for you guys, but we need more. We need more on the FAA side, and one of my first questions is going to be, with the kind of attack, across the board on, governmental service, has that kind of atmospheric slowed recruitment, or do we have a healthy pipeline? I want to get to that. That'll be the first out of the box. And then, obviously, the unique aspects of sharing information between DoD and FAA and all of the civilian. But why don't we start with, is the pipeline pretty good in terms of people interested? And John, what else do you want to raise on the opening question?
Just piling on to that is, since we've talked about how modernizing air traffic control has been around for a long time, what's different now that's going to actually make it happen?
Yeah.
Why
We're going to wait
will
for
this
that for
not-
the second bucket, but like that, because that's the
Yeah, so as far as the current, let's say, hiring rate, I mean, I don't have that information directly, but the last that I heard, there is a healthy pipeline. From an air traffic controller standpoint, even though it's healthy, we'd always like to see more people apply for the position. It's an extremely rewarding position, and it's one of the key positions, like we all are, really, to the safety aspect of what we do as a community.
And
Are there bonuses like ICE has right now to get people to sign up?
I am not personally aware of any bonuses. I would have to look into that and get back to you.
And do you have a view, what Mr. Johnson said, I see the value of everybody going through the same system in Oklahoma City on one level, but I also see that does